Good evening and welcome to How to Do a Life Audit. I am so grateful and honored to be with you tonight. We've arrived at the start of our journey. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Michael Edwards. I'm a professional speaker, trainer, and coach on the John Maxwell team and president of the Edwards Group of Texas. The Edwards Group of Texas was founded to help you discover and unleash your potential. We're based here in San Antonio, Texas, and we serve clients worldwide. Now, to give you a little bit of my background, I'm a former telecommunications executive who spent the last 25 years studying leadership and developing leaders just like you. Adding value to others and helping people realize their dreams is what gets me out of bed every day. I'm both honored and excited to join you in this leadership and personal growth journey. Now, if you've been following our social media channels, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, hopefully you've noticed a series of webinars and masterminds with a common theme. 2021, the best year ever. Now, tonight is the third in a series of events designed to help you kick off 2021 on a solid foundation and make it the best year ever. We started with core values reimagined, then we tackled the topic of goal setting. Each piece of this puzzle builds upon the last, so if you'd like to see my webinar on core values or goal setting, replays are available on the Edwards Group of Texas YouTube channel. And I'll provide you with links in a follow-up email. Now, I absolutely love supporting people who are motivated to improve their lives. I'm ready to help you complete a life audit, remove compromises from your life, make changes that you can experience the maximum happiness you deserve and achieve all of your goals and aspirations. Now, before we jump into today's webinar, I want to review a few key features of Zoom so we can interact during our time together. On the menu bar below, there's 4 buttons that we can use to interact. First, raise your hand. Feel free to raise your hand at any time throughout the presentation by hitting the raise your hand button. Second is the chat button. Now, right now, hit the chat button, type into the chat where you're from. All right, we've got San Antonio, Grapevine, Texas, fantastic. Oklahoma City, my old stomping grounds. Charleston, I'm assuming Charleston in the Carolinas. Abu Dhabi, fantastic. I think you might win the furthest away award. What time is it in the UAE right now? 5 o'clock in the morning. You also win the Up Early award. This is great. We've got representation from across the globe. We've got Florida here. We've got Sacramento, California. This is fantastic. So I'm excited. We've got folks from all over the place. Now, the next button is the Q&A button. At any time during the presentation, you've got a question, type it in the Q&A. I'll address them as we go along. And at the end of the presentation, I'll make sure we've got all of them addressed. Now, finally, we've got the polling feature. Now, tonight, we're only going to do one poll to help me understand how familiar are you with the Zoom platform or application, but we'll actually launch that poll here in a second. Now, if you're joining us from Facebook Live, these features aren't available. Leave any feedback or questions in the comments and I'll address it following the webinar. I've got Facebook open up with my chat here so I can look down and see if you've got any questions or comments in the Facebook chat. My hope is that we'll spend the next 45 minutes interacting with one another and making this a rich learning experience for all of us. So let's test the polling feature with the first question. How familiar are you with the Zoom application? We'll take 20 seconds to answer this question. All right, we're getting some folks very comfortable with the Zoom platform. A couple of Zoom experts. One sick of Zoom, all right. Well, a couple sick of Zoom. So here's how the poll broke down. 10%, what is Zoom? I'm assuming those are folks who have never used the Zoom platform again. I think you'll find it pretty easy to use. I hope you do. If you don't, though, and you have any questions, just hit that chat button and pop it up in the chat. 50%, half of us are comfortable with the Zoom platform. 30% Zoom experts, I may be calling you for some help. And 10% sick of Zoom. So there you have it, a very good distribution. For me, I've come to grow to love Zoom. It helps me reach people from across the globe. And quite honestly, without Zoom, many of us wouldn't be on this webinar today. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and there's only one participant here from San Antonio, Texas. Everybody else is from other places. So I'm grateful for Zoom and the ability to reach more people all over the world. So following this webinar, it's important to remember you're going to receive an email. And this email, it's got several things. One of them is a link to a survey. Please take a few minutes to fill out the survey. It really helps me understand if my material hits the mark and how I can help you along your leadership journey. It'll also contain a lot of resources that were used to build this webinar and resources you can use to dig deeper into the things that we've spoken about. It will also include a couple of links to the previous webinars. If you weren't able to join us for the Core Values Reimagined or the Goal Setting 101 webinars, you'll have links to be able to view both of those. All of the webinars that we've got going on right now are foundational to help you really discover who you are as a person and who you are as a leader, and helps you build your game plan for the next coming year. All right, so now that we're familiar with the tool, let's jump right in. So what is a life audit? You might be asking the question. A life audit is a fairly straightforward concept, but many of us get hung up on it simply because the thought alone can be quite daunting. Simply put, a life audit is when you take a long, detailed, and honest look at various areas in your life to assess which are and aren't helping you live to your highest potential. Now remember, my purpose is to help you discover and unleash your potential, and this is part of that process. Now, a life audit involves three key elements. One, becoming aware of how you want your life to live, how you want your life to appear, the outcome of your life. Two, aligning that awareness with your mission. Three, assessing your current situation to understand where you're aligned and where you might have gaps. Now, this can involve some honest soul searching, some digging deep, often making some difficult decisions. So I'll warn you, it's not for the faint of heart. Now, when I went through my first life audit process, I was in a dorm room where everything that had a power button was removed. There was no phone, no TV, no internet. I was there for several hours, more than 40 hours to be exact, with just my thoughts and a journal and a pen. I emerged from that process with a clear understanding of my core values and my purpose on this earth. I had a deeper understanding of who I am and what I stand for. So I'm not saying you need to quarantine yourself for a week and figure this out, but if you carry it out correctly, honestly, and steadily, life audits can be incredibly empowering and inspiring. Now, many of my clients have noted improvements in areas of their life beyond the areas that they focused on with the life audit. A couple of good examples. By making positive changes in your diet, your work life improves. Making changes in your relationships also improves your environment. All of this can be quite powerful. Now, tonight I'll be discussing areas where you might need to make some changes in your life to align them better with your mission and your goals. I'll also discuss ways for you to implement changes easily and what to look for as signs and signals in your outer environment that may indicate something that might not be right in your inner environment. So, quick question, pop it in the chat. Have any of you done a life audit? Anyone know anyone that has? Tell me what your experience is in the chat. Okay. Okay, so it looks like we are all new to the process, so this will be a fantastic experience. New information for all of us, so I'm looking quite forward to that. So let's jump right into the mission. Now, before we go any further, I want to stress that doing a life audit without a clear goal or idea regarding how you want your life to align, it won't be effective. You really have to know where you're going. In order to make an effective life audit and truly maximize your chances of achieving happiness and purpose, you must first have a clear idea of how you want your life to appear and feel afterwards. Now, some people call it a mission, some people call it a vocation, others a calling. I call it a purpose. No matter what words you use to describe it, it all comes down to the sense of purpose, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of achievement we receive from integrating and balancing our work goals with our personal lives and our personal goals. That is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. Integrating all things, a holistic approach to your life, is critical, and it really will help you understand and receive this self-fulfillment that is just an amazing feeling. Now, it might be that you see yourself cultivating a healthier lifestyle. That's great, but what does that entail? If you vaguely label the things that you want, it greatly decreases your chances of achieving them. To succeed, you've got to dig deep. You've really got to examine what you want. And most importantly, you've got to be critical and detailed in your approach and how you create your plan of action. Now, a personal mission statement will help. It'll help you articulate your values and beliefs. It'll help you determine your personal definition of success. It'll help you by sharing your talents with the rest of the world. It'll generate a sense of clarity and focus around what you're trying to achieve by doing a life audit. The crucial thing here is that everybody's mission statement will be different. No matter what field you work in, what your personal life looks like, or what your goals are, the key is you have to find your why. And I'll tell you, I've got an opportunity coming up on January the 7th to help you through that process. It's a free webinar, January the 7th at 7 p.m., and it's called Discover Your Why. And I'll lead you through the process of really understanding why you're here. And I want to share with you my core values and personal mission statement for a couple of reasons. One, I want to show you an example of the outcome of a life audit. And two, it gives you a little bit of insight into me. So as I shared with you earlier, my purpose is to help others discover and unleash their potential. You'll notice it's also the purpose of my company, the Edwards Group of Texas. To me, it was so important to be clearly aligned, me personally, with my company, my corporate life. So the mission statement is exactly the same. The purpose of the business and my purpose are clearly aligned. Now, my core values are very simple. They've been the same core values for a long time, and we'll talk about why that is later on in the webinar. But core values are God, family, integrity, honor, and ambition. Now, I like to use the picture of a road leading to the mountains, or possibly leading to the beach, or wherever your place is. And the mountains or the horizon, that is the vision. That is kind of the what I want to be when I grow up. The mission is the road, and that road is how I get to the place where I want to be, to where I grow up. And then I envision the guardrails on the side of the road as the core values. And those core values make sure that I'm going down the right path. They keep me honest and they keep me going in the right direction. So, has anybody created a mission statement before tonight? Pop it in the chat. Lots of no's, lots of no's. Okay, so George, you have created a mission statement in the past. Tell me about that experience. What was it like? Tough? Yeah, I get that. It definitely is tough. Awesome. So by and large, none of us have created a personal mission statement, and that's okay because we're going to go through the process. Now, the best way to get to the bottom of your mission is to follow these steps and dedicate a small amount of time to simply write. And that's one of the keys is you just got to do it. It's really, once you get going, it's, a snowball effect, but you've got to get started. So here's step one. Write down a list of what your ideal life looks like. Where do you see this life audit taking you? It's all about outcomes. What do you want the outcome of this exercise to be? Some areas to take into account when doing this include relationships, career, environment, goals and motivation, passions and pastimes. The next step, step two, write down what your current situation looks like in each of the selected areas. Now, you've got to be open, you've got to be honest, and you've got to be critical. Maintaining an impartial stance here can help. It's as if you were looking at your life from the lens of another person and describing what they see. And I'll tell you, when I went through this process, I used my son Michael as the lens. How did he see me? How did I want him to see me? What would he tell others when I'm gone? For me, this is a really powerful way to look at my life and my legacy, and it actually helped me define some of my guiding principles. Now, the next step, step three, super important. Compare the two. This is a powerful exercise to clearly show you which areas of life you need to focus on and where the biggest challenges need to be made. It'll help you gain clarity and maybe even show you things that you weren't aware of. I found oftentimes in exercises like the life audit, they reveal blind spots or things that you hadn't looked at or considered. Now, as I mentioned before, you're going to have an email with a whole bunch of resources. One of the resources you'll find are additional help on how to make a mission statement. So, are you ready to explore alignment and self-awareness? Let me know by typing "Let's go" in the chat. All right, it looks like we're ready to go. So let's make it happen. So the reason why clarifying your personal goals and mission statement is so important lies within your innate power that we all possess to create and manifest our desires. The brain, the power of the mind is such a powerful thing. It's really amazing. If you're not sure what these desires are before going into this process, then how can you expect to achieve them? So you've really got to bring it inward and really think about what you expect your life to look like. In fact, drawing your attention inward and aligning your actions with your goals and core beliefs is a surefire way to start your life audit on the right track. Studies have shown that long-term focus and clarity produce far more effective results because the mind is ultimately an extremely powerful thing. The thoughts we have are a direct manifestation of our conditioned beliefs, habits, and existing neural pathways, which scientists have proven can be redirected by cultivating more self-awareness. Becoming self-aware in relation to making a life audit is crucial. And I say becoming self-aware as a leader, as a parent, as a human being is super important. It's not an easy process, but I'll tell you what, once you start to become self-aware, it really opens your eyes to all kinds of different experiences, behaviors, and things like that. So without the self-awareness required to identify issues and potential threats to your mission statement that might still be playing an active role in your life, they'll stay there. And any changes you're striving for might result in failure. Now, here's something that's important. I'm going to say it twice. It's so important. We all possess the capacity to heal and transform our lives. I'm going to say it again. We all possess the capacity to heal and transform our lives. Now, in the follow-up email, I'm going to share a really insightful piece published by the Chopra Center. It's called Harness Your Mind's Power to Heal and Transform. It's a really powerful read, and I really urge you to check it out. So we're going to talk a little bit about some science, specifically the mental alignment. Now, psychologists have ascertained the benefits of what they call progressive mental alignment, or PMA for short. Progressive mental alignment helps us achieve goals and make large life changes. Life audits, what we're doing tonight, fall into the category of large life changes. And while intelligent decision-making and awareness have always been known to affect the level of life satisfaction we achieve, the science behind PMA really examines the subconscious inhibitors we all possess in our brains. Those subconscious inhibitors can prevent large-scale and long-term changes from taking permanent effect. Now, according to the PMA website, recent discoveries have revealed improvement blockers called bad clusters to be the root of negative influence on our thinking, processes, beliefs, decisions, actions, and behaviors, even on our health, leading to inner resistance against change and improvement. I'll tell you, a lot of times it's human nature to resist change. Therefore, if something is mentally getting in the way of achieving your goals, PMA, an understanding of PMA, will help you make the changes to realign with your beliefs and thought patterns. That will help you alter these behaviors. Now, progressing in alignment with your clear mental and emotional goals is far more beneficial than progressing just blindly, simply because you feel you should be. We think of this in terms of a life auditing, and we use it as a tool in our go-forward process. Now, again, you're going to receive the additional information with a link to the website for PMA in the follow-up email. I really encourage you to take a look at it. It's interesting science. So core values, I've spoken about it a couple of times. I did a 60-minute webinar on it a couple of weeks ago. So obviously it's really important. I'll tell you, before embarking on any big life decisions or change, your core values must be clarified. It's important to clarify core values in order to ensure that any change or decision is made in alignment with your core values to maximize your success. Core values, remember the guardrails, are the fundamental beliefs by which we live our lives. They dictate our behaviors, our decisions, our actions, and whether consciously or unconsciously, they are in essence our understanding of the difference between what is right and what is wrong. In order to audit your life to a more positive place of authenticity or personal fulfillment, it's crucial to identify your core values. No positive change in your life can be lasting if it doesn't align with your core values. So think about 3 people in your life who have influenced the way you see your world. This can be your starting point for identifying some core values. If you'd like to share, please do so in the chat. There's no requirement, but if you're comfortable, go ahead. Typical responses, common responses, moms, dads, grandparents, people who have raised us. That's not uncommon at all. So talking about recognition of your core values. When we don't honor our core values, our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual state is where we experience discomfort. Sometimes this can be obvious. The uncomfortable feeling about knowing some information about somebody else. For example, you've got a friend who's a cheating partner. That causes you some unease. That unease stems from an act we perceive as a negative and might suggest honesty and integrity are high on your list of core values. I think as I review people's core values historically, honesty or integrity is pretty much on every single list. Now, in other times, it might not be so obvious. Things like the feeling of unease about other people's actions, which you may not be able to justify or explain, or even some unconscious habits you've picked up that deep down don't make you feel good, but your clarity on the matter is too blurred for you to see why. Here's a couple of examples of core values. Health and well-being. When your health and well-being is at the core of your personal values, you're more likely to make healthier decisions regarding food, drink, exercise, mental stimulation, downtime, and overall physical and mental health. Family relationships. You notice this was number 2 on my list. People who value family over the other aspects of their lives are likely to thrive best in a positive home environment and make decisions based on or based around how they view their family and their personal life and how those two are impacted. Creativity. Here's one that I often haven't thought of, creativity as a value, but it can indeed be a value. If you're a creative person, then your art will undoubtedly inhabit an important place among your daily pursuits. Cultivating that creativity and finding new ways to express yourself will rank highly on your agenda. Here's a good one too, teamwork. Now, if you're in a business or work environment, having a core value that places the importance of teamwork above other aspects of the work environment will mean the way you choose to conduct your business will revolve around the people and team you surround yourself with. So the next step is to write down your list of core values. Don't compare it to anyone else, but you've really got to turn inward. You've really got to do some soul searching to have a good, solid set of core values. Not going to ask you to share this in the chat. Feel free if you'd like to, but oftentimes core values are very personal. And to be quite honest, we've been talking for 20 minutes or so, and that's definitely not enough time to really come up with a great list of core values. Okay, turning to one of my favorite topics, identifying wants versus needs. Now, if you're a parent, you probably get to have this conversation frequently. Identifying wants versus needs is a commonly encountered theme which many people struggle to honestly identify. Now, I've got a couple of questions to ask if you're really trying to identify a want versus a need. The first one's a big one. What do I need to be happy? What do I need to be happy? This question will almost always allow you to align closer to your core values. The next one's a good one. It's a little bit more difficult. What do I think I need to be happy? These things usually prove to be wants disguised as needs. The key word there is think. Now, the third one, are there things that I want which I can do without? That's a tough one. If you come up with some of those, list those things out and see what you can do to eliminate those from your life. Now, be honest and open with yourself about the needs. A life audit won't work until you get used to dealing with some of the uncomfortable stuff it can bring up. Get outside of your comfort zone, get into the learning zone, and really, give yourself the permission to do some really deep thinking. Now, I'll tell you, there's some correlations between needs and core values. Max St. John wrote an article titled Needs versus Values, What's the Difference? And he points out that the main way to distinguish between them is needs are generally more immediate and fleeting than values. That means that our day-to-day needs fluctuate, obviously, on a daily basis, but our values generally remain the same over time. And I'll tell you, for me, that couldn't be more true. My core values have remained my core values for decades. So your core values, unless you go through a very big life-changing event, your core values typically don't change. So talking about discomfort, let's talk about relationships. Relationships are a commonly recurring theme that may need to be reevaluated during your life audit. No matter how big or small a role people play in your life, it's important to take adequate time to consider the quality of your relationships when you're seeking to make personal changes. The nature of the relationship can mean sometimes the conversation surrounding your life audit and any changes that you might need to be made can feel a little awkward, might even cause a little bit of pain. So as much as you can change your own beliefs, your own habits, your own everyday practices to suit your new lifestyle, you can't change other people. You can't change another person's opinion. You can't change another person's image. And you've got to remember that as you're going through this. So here's a couple of pointers to analyze your current relationships. And I'll tell you, I do this quite frequently. Try to objectively look at your relationships, your relationship with your family, with certain friends or friend groups and significant others. Take into account the dialogue and general sense of positivity or negativity you receive from these interactions. Are these people giving you energy or grief? So in other words, you look at a relationship, let's just say your significant other. Is that relationship a positive relationship or a negative relationship? If it's positive, great. Figure out what you can do to magnify that relationship. If it's negative, you've got to figure out what to do to turn it to a positive relationship, right? Now, the last thing is take notes of these relationships. Do these relationships get you closer to your core values? Do they get you closer to your objectives or not? One vital thing to any successful relationship is the underlying agreement or similarity to some core values. You really need to be aligned with the people that you surround yourself with. I'm a firm believer that you become those that you surround yourself with. So if your core values aren't aligned, if it's just not present, it might be time to think about making some changes in your relationships. All right, show of hands. Use the raise hand button. Who has somebody in your life that robs you of your energy? I'm raising my hand too. It looks like a large chunk of us have somebody in our lives that rob us of energy. I'll tell you, as you go through this life audit, really think about that relationship. Think about, is it a relationship that I can change into a positive one, or is it a relationship that I just need to do away with? Tough decisions, right? All right, so let's talk a little bit about the science. No matter if it's a complete life audit you're trying to achieve or seeking to make a few simple changes to improve your quality of life, it's vital that you identify any condition patterns in your behaviors or thought patterns that may be hindering your progress. This is, self-inventory time, right? Conditioned beliefs refer to the subconscious beliefs and attitudes that we form as young children. Typically, we form these beliefs between birth and 6 years old. Similar to our values are instilled upon us very early. These patterns form as a direct result of the immediate environment, the people we come in contact with, and the attitudes of parents and caregivers as we grow up. Part of identifying core values is to identify these thought patterns and to acknowledge the impact they have on our lives or have had on our actions in current situation. No matter what the goal, conditioned beliefs can be some of the most hindering obstacles. Sometimes they can be some of the biggest obstacles we'll ever encounter. They're difficult because they're challenging to identify. And then when we do identify them, it's even more difficult to accept them. It's kind of hard that, we've had so many years of these behaviors and beliefs, and all of a sudden identify them as something that isn't part of our core, and we have to figure out how to do away with them. Now, I'll tell you, it can help you contemplate specific habits, patterns, or beliefs that you feel you may have inherited from a young age. And once you've identified them, it's time to separate yourself from them. Easier said than done, but it's imperative that you do so. Those beliefs aren't yours, and you have no obligation to follow them. It's simply a matter of changing habits. Now, in the resource guide, you'll receive an article that explains some direct examples of conditioned beliefs and the impact they have on our lives and goals. So, rolling into our environment, also important. It's an important element of our daily lives, which impacts our mental and physical health more than you think. Things like the place you live, the space you sleep, the area you work in, even the quality of light, air, and sound in these places can influence your perceptions. Really true for me. I've got a super busy life. And if I don't have things in order, things in the exact same place every single time, I show signs of stress. My wife pokes fun at my systems, but without them, I don't know if I'd be able to get out the door. So when thinking about your environment, ask yourself these questions. Is your house cluttered? Science has proven that cluttered and messy living spaces actually significantly affect our happiness, our clarity, our anxiety levels. Number 2, is your home environment bright or dark, large or small? Now, these factors can impact our overall mentality when we get home after a long day. The space we consider our home is a vital element of how we form our personal internal landscapes. Now, if you're aware of something in your environment that needs changing, then take note and change it. Even if it means a little bit more time invested, a little bit more money, a little bit more effort, you really need to make it happen. Do a spring clean. Donate unworn clothing to charity, or organize a clothes swap with some friends. You can get creative with this. The possibilities are endless. I'll tell you, you'll feel better after you get rid of some things and, maybe provide them to somebody who needs them more than you do. So is anyone here in the middle of a career change? Raise your hand or pop that into the chat. Okay. Nobody is experiencing a career change. Well, I'm raising my hand because I made a career change at the beginning of this year. As I mentioned before, I'm a former telecom executive, 25-year career. At the beginning of this year, I decided I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to follow my passions, and I wanted to make sure that I'm doing things that are aligned with my goals. Now, part of our everyday lives, which can prove to be the most difficult to alter, come in the form of negative workspaces. Identifying whether the problem lies in your actual job or simply in the environment in which you do it every day can help clarify this. If you've identified your career as an area which causes needless stress and anxiety for you, and not just the space in which you work every day, then challenge yourself to tackle these issues head on and analyze your work situation for the potential to change. Here's a couple of questions to ask. Do you have to stay in the office? Can you work from home? The reason this one's an important one is because it helps you understand is it the job that's not right or causes me stress, or is it the work environment that causes me stress? So if I'm working from home and I'm happy as can be, I'm in the right role. Whether I'm working from home, working from Starbucks, or working from the office, if it still causes me stress, I might want to take a second look at that. So as you're examining this, is it possible to find a new position in a similar field? Do you have the resources or desire to upskill, change directions completely, go get some additional training, some additional schooling? Now, remember that career changes don't mean that you failed. They don't mean that you're any less skilled. It actually reflects your positivity, that you've got the ability to recognize stressors in parts of your life that are out of alignment with your core values. And again, in my case, I was able to recognize those things and make a significant change. The bottom line is this: you're more likely to perform well at a job that you're passionate about. It's not rocket science. I didn't make that up. It's just true. You hear people say, follow your heart, follow your passion. And I agree with that, but I also put the caveat, follow your heart, follow your passion, providing you can earn an income with that. So even with the facts and statistics, it's normal to have some doubts about uprooting everything you've worked so hard for. For me, I went through an entire year of soul searching, prayers, numerous discussions with my wife and trusted advisors. Looking back, leaving the corporate world and starting a business, developing leaders just like you was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now, if you're in a similar position, ask yourself these questions to help you clarify the uncertainty: job versus work environment. Does my current job align with my core values and allow me to feel a true sense of fulfillment? Now, fulfillment is important. You've really got to feel like you're contributing to something. Does my current workspace cause me stress and anxiety just by thinking about it? That's a good one. How can I make changes? How can I make changes to rectify this? Am I using my passions and hobbies in work? Have you ever thought about your hobbies in your work? That's a great one. Crazy thing is, one of my hobbies is reading and learning more about leadership, and I am able to integrate that into my work. That's really what I do. Could I orchestrate a way to integrate them into my work life? So it's really understandable that career changes are among life shifts which may not be as straightforward as others. It helps to consider the bigger picture and plan ahead. It feels overwhelming. If it does get you kind of in a feel of overwhelm, search for other courses, classes that you can take to learn more, to upskill, things to generate income. A lot of folks, they talk about a side hustle. I'm in a job that I don't exactly enjoy. I don't want to do it for life. So I'm going to do something else over here to help get me into a position where I can leave that. And ultimately that side hustle could turn into my primary hustle. Really getting into something that can generate income and also align with your your core values and your passions is a really good place to start. So as well as aligning your core beliefs, your values, and your passions, it's also vital when you're doing a life audit that you prioritize positive physical and mental health practices during and after your life audit. We don't often think of my physical health and my mental health. And I'll tell you what, for years and years, I neglected my physical health, which impacted my mental health. And once I focused on my physical health and got into condition, my whole outlook, my inner self, my outer self changed. I had a very positive outlook, very optimistic, and it just changed so many aspects of my life. So really going deep with the spiritual and mental health is important. Now, without health and well-being, any lifestyle change and experience will seem less vibrant than if you were in a really good position of positive mental and physical health. Something that helps is to consider all of the things you could be achieving and all of the creativity, passion, and mental energy you could be putting towards achieving your goals if only your mind and body were clear and balanced to let the energy flow that way. You might find that if health and well-being are high up on your list of core values and you aren't heeding this, your mind and body may be exposed to habits and things that negatively impact them. Deciding on a course of action to rectify this will be a key to your life audit. Now, the good news is that almost all life audits include improving some areas of health and well-being that are currently not being attended to. As you're going through the typical areas of your life, ask yourself how each one makes you feel and how it impacts your mental and physical health. These things, mental and physical health, should be a big factor in many of your decisions. So meditation, interesting topic. Meditation is not a new practice. In fact, the fascinating thing about it is that it's a century-old method of silencing the mind and tuning into the emotions of the present moment. Now, if you've done any sort of meditation, the beginning of the meditation process and learning it, you're focused on your breathing and, inhaling deeply and exhaling deeply and how it cleanses you. And if you haven't tried it, it really works. I've got to admit, I don't habitually integrate meditation into my daily routine. I wish I could. I just haven't made it a priority to do so. But meditation has so many different benefits. And I'll tell you, it could lead us to realize that we could do some things different in life. It could help us think with more clarity. I'll tell you, some people, like me, use meditation as a means of making some changes. And many of us start with the intent of solving some mental chatter, things that, writing a list won't solve, noise. We go to meditation to center ourselves. But I'll tell you, a life audit is designed to increase your overall sense of self-aware happiness and well-being. And meditation fits nicely into this equation. I spoke with somebody today also, they don't meditate, but they pray. If you're a believer, if you're a person of faith, prayer fits nicely into this exact same category. So whatever works for you, prayer or meditation, have at it and get some of that mental clarity. Now, you can see fitness and health are kind of a common theme because it's super important for you to be healthy, to realize your goals, to be around for a while. I'll tell you, it's not uncommon to find a large portion of your life audit involving or revolving around increasing your fitness level or optimizing your health. Now, there's very little that won't be affected by improving this area of your life. For me, again, going back to my fitness journey, it made a huge difference in my life. And so here's a couple things to remember if you choose to include fitness in your life audit. Make it a priority, but don't get too obsessed. You might find that you go through phases of being dedicated to a fitness plan and then fall off the bandwagon once in a while. Totally normal, totally okay. The key is you got to get back on the horse and get back in that gym or back on that treadmill or whatever it is you choose to do. Now, the second thing is set small, achievable fitness goals. To combat the periodic spurts of fitness focus, set yourself small, achievable goals. Chances are you're going to need that energy to spend somewhere else in your life audit quest. Now, this could be 10 to 15 minutes a day of doing whatever activity that brings you joy and is aligned with your lifestyle goals and circumstances. And those things will give you much more happiness and satisfaction than doing something you don't want to do. Here's an example. If you don't like to lift weights, don't go spend 45 minutes in the gym lifting weights. It's not going to be something that inspires you to get out of bed in the morning and go get fit. If you like yoga, go do yoga. Take a yoga class. But focus on those things that you really want to do, because if you're going to the gym to do something you don't want to do, you're not going to do it. You're not going to realize a whole bunch of success. Now, if you haven't already set out to maximize your fitness and health as part of your life audit, I really strongly encourage you to take it into consideration. Doesn't have to be a huge change. Just know that becoming a little more aware of how you move your body and what you take in terms of food, that'll ultimately increase your chances of changing your life and boost the effects of changes you make elsewhere. And I'll tell you just a little side note for me, a PSA, diets don't really work long-term. It's really a lifestyle change. I've enjoyed a keto lifestyle for the last 2.5 years, and I don't, have the urges very often to go back to the old way of eating. Whereas in dieting, sometimes really short-term fix, I'm limiting my calories, my caloric intake, but not changing my lifestyle. And I'll tell you, I made personal fitness a priority in 2018, eating right, exercising often, and it really changed me. By doing that, I was able to think more clearly. I used to hit a brick wall at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I used to tell folks that I work with, if you've got to ask me a question that is more than a yes or a no in the afternoon, I'm not the guy. Let's do it in the morning. And, fast forward to today, I've got energy to work late at night. Here's a great example. It's after 7 o'clock p.m. and we're doing a fun webinar. One of the big things too is I was able to stop taking a truckload of medications. So in short, start small, be consistent, and celebrate the improvements that you have with your health and fitness. You cannot go wrong if you focus on your health and fitness. So here's a big one, digital reset. Now, I really implore you to pay close attention here, because this is one that I found with many of my clients that it's a derailer, it's a productivity killer. And I'll tell you, in our modern age of digital obsession, it can be difficult to really understand the true impact our online hours are having on our happiness. Now, if you're among the 2.56 billion, I'll say that again, 2.56 billion people who use social media, then it's highly likely that you've encountered the addictive and damaging nature of being consistently online and the impacts it has on society today. You've heard about the dopamine drips that we get when we check our email or when we get that Facebook notification. And I'll tell you, there's really no hiding from it. Our online lives now have become almost synonymous with our day-to-day lives. How many of you gone to dinner and watched the family of four sitting at the table staring at their screen rather than talking? I think I see it every time we go out. How many of your kids are playing video games online rather than going outside and moving their bodies? It's this very image of getting stuck in our non-existent reality that plays into our lives needing a reboot and possibly has to do with why you find yourself here today. In fact, doing a digital detox has been linked to things like increased productivity, increased positivity, better, more regulated sleep patterns, and improved relationships. And I'll tell you, I can attest to all four of these things, particularly the increased positivity. When you look at the world today, there is so much negativity. And, I made the conscious decision to go through my social media platforms and eliminate things that are negative, news things. And I just don't need it. I don't need the negativity. And it has really helped improve all aspects of my life. So, it's definitely something you should consider. Take a look at the digital detox when you're doing a life audit. You're going to receive, again, a link to some places for doing a digital detox in the email that I'm going to send you. And really quickly, let's pause and see if we've got any questions. And I'm going to pop over here to Facebook and see what we've got here. Speaking of social media and digital detox, I'm going over to Facebook. Okay, nothing so far. Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit more about digital detox. Now, there are many ways to do a digital detox. And, you might be aware that it might not fit into your new life audit plan. And I'll tell you why. If you work online or use social media as part of your business or marketing strategies, it can be difficult to avoid the necessity of going online. And I'll tell you, for me, 90% of my marketing is done on social media. So I find myself having to go to social media multiple times a day. What I had to do was create links that go directly to my business pages and the groups that I'm part of, and avoid my personal social media page during the day so I don't get sucked into that black hole. But I do want to clarify something. Social media can be very beneficial when used in the right ways. In order to determine how to best fit social media into your new life plan, it's really helpful for you to assess, why do you use it, when you use it, and how you use it. I encourage people that don't use social media for business to either block it out during their business hours or put a timer on it, a time limit throughout the course of the day. So, do you check your phone first thing in the morning? Do you find yourself mindlessly scrolling through social media with no agenda whatsoever? Are there people that you can only contact through social media? This is one that you can change pretty easily. If there are people that you can only contact through social media, you can ask them if there are other ways to contact them. A different application, text messaging, pick up the telephone and actually talk. That's a good one. Now, are you drawn back to your smartphone or your laptop when you get bored? That's a big one too. I see that in my kids too. Now, does social media lower your productivity? So you've got an agenda, you've got meetings, you've got all of these tasks that need to get done, and you didn't get something done. Was it because you spent a little bit of time on Facebook? Now, here's something to consider too. Are there positive emotions generated from being online? That's an important one too, because if you're getting nothing but negative emotions, negative things off of social media, you just need to stop. So in the chat room, do you have any experience with detoxing from social media? Do you have any tips that you'd like to recommend? Okay. Yeah. So there is a book, and I don't have the author on hand, but there is a book that talks about doing a digital detox over 30 days. I haven't read it, but from some of the folks that I've spoken to, it goes pretty deep into cutting pretty much everything off that connects to the internet. I don't know if I could do that, but I do consistently evaluate the things that I detox. All right. So let's talk about decluttering your space. Now, some people define the very act of life auditing as decluttering your life. So it makes sense to clean up your physical environment as well as your mental space. Now, if your home and everyday surroundings are messy, cluttered, strewn with possessions, things everywhere that you don't regularly use, it's time to do a literal clear out and throw away the skin of the previous life or your old self and bring in your new self so you don't go back to the old self. Now, it makes sense when you think about the old stuff that's hanging around. If you have that stuff, the more likely you are to go back and try it on. Now, think about the story of Cortez burning the ships. I actually included that story in depth in my Goal Setting 101 webinar. But in short, Cortez was charged with exploring the Mexican coastline. Cortez decided he wanted to conquer the Mexican coastline, and to ensure that his troops would move forward and follow his order, he burned the ships so they had no way of going home. And this declutter process, this removing things that you don't need from your home, is a very similar thing. And it kind of goes to a rebirth of your new self. Now, removing the temptation of this from your life and decluttering your space is really effective means of starting your life audit. Here's a couple of tips. Number one, be brutal. If there's something that you won't wear in a month, get rid of it. If it's a seasonal object, think about keeping it, but then do another cleanse in the next season. Maybe my ugly Christmas sweater is a good example. Now, number two, if it's something that you might wear on a special occasion, but you don't have any special occasions coming up, get rid of it. Number three, is it something you haven't used in the past 6 months? Get rid of it. That one's a big one for me. I've moved all over the country. In fact, I've moved 9 times in 25 years, and I've learned if you don't use it, get rid of it. Donate it, sell it, whatever you've got to do. And the fourth one, and this is an important one and sometimes difficult to discern, is it something that has sentimental value or specific memories associated with it, but it really isn't useful or practical? If it is, get rid of it. Now, this can be a challenging one, but unless the value is irreplaceable, consider parting ways with it. Decluttering helps create a clearer, more relaxing and spacious home environment for you to begin formulating the life you've always dreamt of. That's a really good one. There's all kinds of shows on the home improvement channels about decluttering your space, so you might want to check one of those out as well. So here's where the rubber meets the road. Once you've established a firm understanding of your core values and what needs to be changed in your life, you're faced with some of the underlying root causes and existing problems. It's time to make an action plan. Now, this action plan can be tailored to suit you in many different ways. Most people find it easier to keep it as simple as possible. The key to a good action plan is to be realistic, yet honest and open with your goals. Now, I'll tell you, for me, if it's more than one page, it's probably not going to be something that I'm going to stick with. My life plan is on one page. And my life plan is actually a mind map. It's pictures. It's not a whole bunch of words. And it's very simple. I can glance at it and make sure I'm on track and go on down the road. Now, you've already written down how you'd like to see your ideal life playing out. So now it's the time to put this plan into action. Here are the next steps. What you want to do is break down your goals into categories. Here's a good example of how to do that. There's 3 categories, really simple. Work goals, negotiate a promotion. Relationship goals, spend more time with my parents. Health goals, spend 1 hour being physically active 3 times a week. That's a simple plan. There's 3 things on there that will help improve your life. Now, use what you've identified as your core values, your beliefs, your existing resources, and overall goals to determine your clear course of action. Then try this. This is a really neat method. The stop, start, more of, less of formula. It's a really practical and effective life auditing tool that's a great way to bluntly assess what you need to do and how you need to do it. Here's an example. Stop. Stop procrastinating and overanalyzing situations. Start exercising every day for 20 minutes. More. Make more time for loved ones. Less. Spend less time eating out. This basic life audit plan is so simple. It's structured, it's to the point, it's really easy to follow. It doesn't quite get to the root of the existing problems, but that's why the action plan is undertaken after you go through the core values and really ferret out the underlying truths that have been established. It comes down to the simple task of making small changes every single day and aligning your decisions to meet your mission. So we're coming into the home stretch. There are so many ways that you can start on the path of auditing your life today. And ultimately, it's a very personal path that only you can clearly define. What works for one person might not work for another. It's important to remain self-aware and be able to honestly identify your issues as they arise in your life examination and action plan. It's time to part ways, but here are some final tips. As you're going through this process, be consistent. If you plan on achieving change, you must consistently follow through on your plan. This means not skipping over elements of your action plan or half-heartedly completing part of what you wish to achieve. Be honest. This follows the rest. Being honest and open with yourself about what it is you want to achieve, the practical resources available to you to do so, and the belief and drive you wish to cultivate is crucial if you're going to see any lasting change. Don't lose heart. If something goes wrong, and it will, it's vital that you don't give up. Merely use the setback as a means to propel you forward and keep striving towards the goal you know you're capable of achieving. Be self-aware and self-motivating. Noticing when you begin to slack on your goals or you've let one aspect of your goal slide. There's nothing quite as empowering as motivating yourself to get back on track. So that's almost it for me today, but it really is just the start of something really great for you. Make sure you commit the time to go back over the topics we covered today and note your own responses. Answer the questions related to your life and the elements you might wish to change, and really dig deep. Now, later today, you'll receive an email from me with additional resources. If you'd like to learn more about goal setting or want to read further on the subject, a list of resources will be included in that message. Now, if you'd like to schedule time with me to go deeper into the topic of goal setting or take advantage of a complimentary 30-minute coaching, you can do this on my website. My website is www.edwardsgrouptx.com. Again, I am so grateful for the opportunity to help each of you define and accomplish your goals. If you think of any questions or comments you'd like to share, feel free to post them. And if anyone is interested in working together further on a one-on-one, send me a text message, email me, mde@edwardsgrouptx.com. And before we part, I just want to check really quickly into the questions and make sure that we've answered all of them. Okay, so here's a great question. I've never thought about my core values. What is the best way to get clear on those? I'll tell you, what worked for me was isolating myself and really thinking through that. The webinar that I did, that's on YouTube, it's a free webinar. I invite you to take a look at that. That's got some really great tips, processes to help get clear on that. If you're still not quite sure, give me a call. I can help you walk through that process. The next question, and I like it a lot, is what's the best way to do a digital detox? There's all kinds of information out there. There's a book called Digital Detox. There are a couple of links that you'll get that talk about digital detox. There's also a website, and it's www.digitaldetox.com. That's got some of the science behind it, some of the research, from folks that I've heard who have done digital detox in the past. They went cold turkey, eliminated everything, and then slowly brought things back that added value to their lives, and found that they've eliminated things like Twitter and Facebook and some of the chat apps and things like that. Next question. I really want to do a life audit, but I need more help. Can you help? Yes, that's what I do. That's what I do for a living. So if you really want some more help, you can give me a call. All of my contact information will be on the email that you're about ready to receive. Send me an email, text message. We can do a Zoom call. Regardless of where you're at in the world, I can help, with the help of Zoom. That is it. Great. I'll tell you, I'm so grateful. I really appreciate the time you took tonight. I know for most of us, it's late at night. In Abu Dhabi, it's bright and early in the morning, but I really appreciate the time that you've taken. Please, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. I am here for you. I am your friend. I'm along for the journey. So thank you. Have a great night, and let me help you make 2021 the best year ever. Thanks.